Hey bud, how are you doing? You feeling a little better today? Happily eating. See what our little flight distance is in the big pen. Gonna try to get that lead rope off over his neck. Hello. So this is day 2 with Momo. I got that hook in my hand. I'm going to use it to see if I can try to grab the lead rope from over his head. He's got kind of a short lead rope on, so it doesn't drag on the ground, so I have to get pretty close to him if I want to grab it. So the stick, they tend to react a little bit less to than your hand. I know it looks a little frightening, but it's an inanimate object, so they usually tolerate it better. Usually what I try to do is I'll try to get him to sniff it, and then I'll see if I can slide it closer to his neck to see if I can get that rope off. Using the hook to grab the rope also lets me stay a little bit further away from him, because he's obviously not quite comfortable with me walking up to him yet, so it allows me to keep more distance between my body and his body while still being able to grab the lead rope. Of course, after picking up the stick to try to get the lead rope, I almost immediately put it down because I actually wanted to see how close he would let me get to him with just my hand. Seeing as I got a couple of decent touches yesterday, I wanted to see if he remembered and if I could try some more approach and retreat to see if I could get close enough to put hands on him. So there you saw he turned his head and he looked at me. So I'm going to walk away to release the pressure to reinforce the behavior I want, which is him turning towards me and acknowledging me, which will hopefully become a step towards me. And of course, watching these videos back, you see things that you missed while you were actually training. So what I don't like about what I did right there is I didn't actually give him a very good release, because when I walked around him, I stayed too close. So he was still worried about me, so I never actually took the pressure off. So the reward for him looking at me, which was supposed to be me walking away, didn't actually become a release of pressure because I didn't leave him alone for long enough. But you live and you learn, and horses for the most part are pretty forgiving. So I didn't want to get any closer right there because I try not to put myself in super dangerous spots, and I try not to squeeze myself between their hind end and the fence. So I'm going to just reposition myself and try to go back to his head and draw his eye. And this ends up being a really nice touch from him, and I should have backed away a little bit, but I got a little bit greedy and wanted to get a little bit closer, and then he ends up walking away from me. I wasn't getting as close as I'd wanted to with just my hands, so I go ahead and I pick up the hook again. And you can see he's a little bit wary of it, so I'm just trying to get to his nose so I can get him to sniff it and acknowledge it. And then when he touches it with his nose, I take it away and release the pressure. So I end up doing the approach and retreat method for quite some time, but I'm not really getting as close as I necessarily wanted to. I haven't really had any opportunities to try to grab that lead rope from over his head, which is okay. I still have to remind myself that it's only his second day of being worked with. So, of course, he's not necessarily going to be easy to catch or really have a lot of interest in being touched yet, especially considering how unwell he felt the previous day. So approach and retreat wasn't quite getting me the results I wanted, so I switched methods, and now I'm moving his feet a little bit to see if I can get a little bit better draw to myself. I think I ended up cutting out about 30 minutes of approach and retreat because it's definitely not the most interesting stuff to watch. And it's kind of the same concept here as it was with the approach and retreat. So when he stops moving his feet and he looks at me, I back away to give him space to move into, and the goal is to get him to draw into that space. And eventually they learn that by stepping towards you, they can push you away. And by pushing you away, they figure out how to get the pressure of moving their feet to release. This ended up being a pretty good draw. You can see him lick and chew a little bit as he's starting to figure out what I'm asking of him. Using the moving his feet method, I was able to get some pretty good draws and a fair number of nose touches, but I wasn't able to get close enough to grab the rope. So I did end up throwing him in one of our little smaller pens, and I was able to get the rope pretty quickly. But I figured I'd include these videos so you guys can get a couple nice shots of how cute he moves. He has a super cute trot, and he cantered a couple of times, which I was pretty pleased with because some horses can find it pretty hard to canter in the round pen and keep their balance, but he actually had a pretty balanced canter, especially for a big dude. And that's all that I have for day 2. So stay tuned for day 3.